to Relentless Rock Community Church. We're going to start out today by looking at the 4th chapter in Hosea, but I want to make a few comments first. In Hosea chapters 4 through 5, the emphasis is centered on the commands that are given by God in Hosea chapter 4 verse 15. We see 3 repetitions of indictment plus judgment both precede and follow the commands that are given in Hosea chapter 4 verse 15. Today we will be looking at chapter 4, so let's turn in our Bibles now to Hosea chapter 4 verse 1. That's Hosea chapter 4 verse 1. Hear the word of the Lord, you children of Israel. For the Lord brings a charge against the inhabitants of the land. There is no truth or mercy or knowledge of God in the land. By swearing and lying, killing and stealing, and committing adultery, they break all restraint, with bloodshed upon bloodshed. Therefore the land will mourn, and everyone who dwells there will waste away with the beasts of the field and the birds of the air. Even the fish of the sea will be taken away. What we see here is that this central indictment section begins with a prophetic call to hear. To hear a summary of the Lord's charges and a call to the true children of Israel to recognize their moral as well as their spiritual corruption of the rest of their fellow citizens who have abandoned their God and forfeited their right to be called His people. These adulterous inhabitants have abandoned the truth, have abandoned integrity, have abandoned the quality of being reliable and genuine. Secondly, mercy or faithful love to friends and associates. Third, the knowledge of God. They have ceased to care about knowing God or knowing the truth about God. As a result, the people of the northern kingdom were violating the 10 commandments and suffering the consequences as a result of those violations. God explained the reasons for Israel's suffering. Their lawlessness, their lawless behavior had brought twin judgments of increased violence and ecological crisis. There is not always a direct cause and effect relationship between our actions and the problems that we face. But nevertheless, when we are surrounded with difficulties, we should seriously ask the question, have we done anything sinful? Have we done anything irresponsible that has caused our suffering? If we discover that we are at fault, even partially, we must change our ways before God will help us. Verse 4. Now let no man contend or rebuke another, for your people are like those who contend with the priest. Therefore, you shall stumble in the day, the prophet shall also stumble with you in the night, and I will destroy your mother. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also will reject you from being a priest for me. Because you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children. The more they increased, the more they sinned against me. I will change their glory into shame. Now, I'm going to let that soak in for just a minute. Essentially, what we see here is the common people are identified as guilty, but especially guilty were the priests who were responsible for teaching the people. Once again, we see this theme of judgment begins at the pulpit. Leaders of God's people who shirk or violate that responsibility invite special punishment. Verse 8. They eat up the sin of my people. They set their heart on their iniquity. The term for sin can also mean sin offering, which the priests were to eat. The priests were using Israel's sin and the sacrificial system for their own advantage. The priests relished in the people's sins. Every time a person brought a sin offering, the priest received a portion of it. Therefore, the more the people sinned, the more the priests received, because they couldn't eat all the sin offerings themselves. They sold some and gave some to their relatives. In other words, it had become a racket where the priests profited from the continuation of sin, and it gave them power and it gave them position in the community. So instead of trying to lead the people out of sin, they encouraged sin to increase their profits. The priests saw a business opportunity here, a profit margin that could be increased endlessly. So God accused the religious leaders of keeping the people from knowing Him. They were supposed to be spiritual leaders, but they had become leaders in wrongdoing. Spiritual leadership is a very heavy responsibility. Whether you teach a Bible study, whether you lead a church school class, it is in everybody's best interest not to take their responsibilities lightly. We as leaders in the church need to lead others to God and not pad our pocketbooks. Verse 9. And it shall be like people, like priests, so I will punish them for their ways and reward them for their deeds. For they shall eat, but have enough. They shall commit harlotry, but not increase, because they have ceased obeying the Lord. The fertility religion that has infected apostate Israel, even the priesthood, was about prosperity. But Yahweh would see to it that the opposite results occurred. They would not increase. Amen and amen. Next week we'll pick up with chapter 5. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord's blessings be upon you and give you peace. Amen